All right, so triangle congruence. So previously, in order to prove two triangles congruent, you had to prove that all angles and all sides were congruent. Okay, so you would have to prove that angles A and D would be congruent, B and C, or B and E, and C and F. And then you would also have to prove that the sides were congruent. So AB and DE, AC and DF, and BC and EF. You would have to go through all of that. All three sides and all three angles congruent. Okay, so what we're going to discuss in chapter 7 is you really only need 3. If you have 3 pieces of information that they're congruent, then that's all you need, but there's only certain ones that work. The first one is side, 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 or SSS, okay? It says if the sides of one triangle are congruent to the sides of a second triangle, then the triangles are congruent. Okay, so what that means is if segment AB, see how it's marked congruent to segment ZX? So segment AB is congruent to segment ZX. And then also BC is marked congruent to XY. And AC is marked congruent to ZY. Then that means that the two triangles are congruent. Triangle ABC is going to be congruent to triangle AB, so ZX would need to go first. Okay, so here's AB, ZX, see how they're both green? And then I went ABC, so I went green and red, so ZXY. The highlighting part really helps when you're writing your congruent statement. Okay. Also, another one that we can use is side angle side, or SAS. And it says if two sides in the included angle of one triangle are congruent to two sides and the included angle of another triangle, then the triangles are congruent. Okay, so looking at your picture, notice how AB is marked congruent to FD. And then also BC is marked congruent to DE. And angle B is marked congruent to angle D. Notice that this angle is between the two sides. It's included. So where these two sides come together, that's where the angle is. Where these two sides come together, it's where the angle is. Then that means that the triangles are congruent. So triangle ABC is congruent to triangle, and I have to make sure I go in the same order. I went A, B, C, so I did red and then green. So I would do F, D, E. Okay, and the angle that's congruent should be B and D because it's in between, it's in the middle. All right, it says use the figures below to complete each statement. It says triangle DEF is congruent to blank by side angle side, and triangle ABC is marked congruent to blank by side, side, side. So here's what I would do. I would see what sides are marked congruent, and I would highlight those all the same color. So here's AC. So I would highlight segment AC, and it's marked congruent to DF, and that's also marked congruent to ST. And then AB is marked congruent to EF, which is not marked to anything over here. And then you have BC that's marked congruent to DE, which is also marked congruent to TR. And then we have angle D marked congruent to angle T. Okay. Now you can look at it and see which ones you have by side angle side. So that's two sides with an included angle. Oh, there you go. Okay, so two sides with an included angle. You see D and T are marked, and then the two sides you got red and red, green and green. So this one's between the red and green, and this one's between red and green. So it corresponds. They're corresponding. It's side angle side, side angle side. So that would be congruent. So we would triangle DEF would be congruent to, see how D is listed first? That means I also have to do T first. And then they went DEF. So they went green and then orange. So since I did T, I would have to do T and do green and then R, TRS. Okay, so D and T have to go together. And then since DE was listed first, TR would have to go first. Okay, and then by side, 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 you would see which one has all three sides marked. Okay, well, these have all three sides and these have all three sides. So ABC would be congruent to, they did A, B, C. So they went orange, green. So I need to go orange, green. So it would be FED by side, side, side. Okay. All right, let's do some examples. It says, would you use side, 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 or side, angle, side to prove the triangle's congruent? If there's not enough information to prove them congruent by side, 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 or side, angle, side, write not enough information and explain your answer. All right, so as before, like I said, I highlight the same color, those that are marked congruent. So these sides were marked congruent, and then both of these angles are 90 degrees, so that means they're congruent as well, since they're both 90. Okay, and notice you have two sides and their included angle, two sides and their included angle. So that would be side, angle, side. And that's because two sides and their included angle are congruent. Okay, looking at the next one, you have this pair of sides and then this pair of angles. Okay, that's only one pair of sides and one pair of angles, and there's nothing else I can mark congruent, so that would be not enough information, and you can put NEI, and that's because only one side and one angle are congruent. Okay, part C. This side and this side are congruent. This side and this side are congruent. And this side and this side are congruent. So all three sides are marked congruent. So we would say side, 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 because all three sides are congruent. Okay. The next one, this side and this side, this side and this side, and then this angle and this angle. So I do have two sides and an angle. However, the angle's not included between the sides. So this one I wouldn't be able to use side, angle, side. So this one would be not enough information. because the angle's not included. Okay. This one here would actually be considered a side-side angle, and that's a big no-no. Okay. And the last one, it has two pair of sides marked congruent. So this side and this side are congruent, and then this side and this side are congruent, but it doesn't have a third side. However, from the last chapter, we know that they share a side. So this side would be congruent to itself. So I would actually get to use side, 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 and that's because of reflexive property. Okay. All right. So this is due at the beginning of class on Monday. Thank you and have a good day.